Welcome to the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where you will learn top strategies from world-class real estate investors, both large and small. Why not? Tune in and get started today.
Start picking up a book, start listening to different podcasts, Jake and Gino, Grant Cardone. Go even on Google and look at the best real estate books to start investing. Start there, start somewhere, just take action. Just take action is what it really requires.
Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier with another episode of the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where we interview successful real estate investors, both large and small, where we believe that investing in multifamily is the best asset class in real estate. Well, today I'm very excited. I met this young man at a RIA event in New Hampshire, back stateside. I gave a presentation, and this man was actually the first one to raise his hand and answer a question and got the book of his choice, which he had singled out before we even started. So kudos to him for taking action. So we're excited to introduce today a truly inspiring guest on the show, someone who has built his success through sheer determination, perseverance, and a commitment to betting on himself. From a young age, our guest had a vision of success that was driven not only by intelligence, but his relentless work ethic. Whether it was becoming a high school wrestling state champion as a freshman, or purchasing his first rental property when others in his life doubted him, he's always been driven to go the extra mile. On the business side, he has an impressive track record as well. He helped grow the value of a company from $6 million to a staggering $76 million, leading it through a sale to an equity firm. When things changed internally, our guest made the bold decision to walk away and never work for someone else again. He took the equity earned along with his savings and bet on himself again, launching his own venture in the real estate world. He is now a partner in KB4 Property Group LLC, which he co-owns with his brother, focusing on value-add properties where they can increase value through strategic renovations, rent adjustments, and maximizing the NOI. But his journey doesn't just stop at financial success. Our guest is passionate about helping others achieve their own goals. He doesn't just seek financial personal freedom, he wants to semi-retire while continuing to help others find their own path to financial success. He lives by the mantra of taking action, a value that has shaped his personal and business accomplishments throughout his life all the way up to today. So ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps, it is my pleasure to introduce to the show format today, today's guest, co-partner at KB4 Property Group, LLC, Mr. Bob Murray. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brian. Great intro there. I am happy to be here. Simple as that. I wish I was in Aruba with you, but I'm over here in good old New Hampshire.
Well, New Hampshire is a beautiful state to be in as well. I did meet you up there first time, maybe about a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And, I think it was, I can't remember the author, but it was 5 Moves Ahead. And
Correct.
you walked up to all the books and said, that's one that I don't have. I says, well, let's see what we can do. And like I said in the intro, you popped up your hand at the very first answer. Didn't know it, but you'd have got to pick that book. And have you had a chance to take a look at it yet?
Yes, I'm about chapter 12. I think I have I listen to a lot of it on Audible, honestly. So I have about an hour left of it, but it's been excellent. It's actually talked about some great things about really truly thinking 5 steps ahead. It's funny, it was talking about 5 steps ahead, and the intro was laughing because we talked about me winning my state wrestling champ as a freshman. But to win that match, I had to think 5 moves ahead to take down my opponent. So I kind of relate that as I go through life with the real estate, is I have to think 5 moves ahead. You never know what the market's going to do, but you're thinking ahead of your competition. That's how I kind of looked at it. It was really good book so far. I've taken a lot from it.
Well, I'm so happy that I was able to put it in your hands. It was recommended to me by a close friend. I devoured that book. I really enjoyed it. But let's get into your story.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
Bob, you tell us a little bit in your intro about where you came from, but I'd like to drill down into that a little bit. Could you tell our viewers today what you used to do before investing in real estate?
Yeah, of course. I was a manager. I worked my way up from a recruiter to a manager to a vice president of a recruiting firm. I staffed nurses, I staffed allied health professionals across the country. Um, and I ran the company. We got there. My brother and I actually worked for the same company. It was a company out of New Hampshire. We grew it for a CEO who was an excellent guy. He took us under the wing. I became the top sales producer to the top manager to the vice president of sales. And we grew that from, I was there about 11 years, 12 years. We got there when it was worth around $6 million. And right after COVID, he sold for around 76 to $80 million at that time.
That's phenomenal. That's incredible. So in 11 years, that's staggering growth. That's
Yes,
really incredible.
it
So
was a great experience. I learned how to manage individuals. I learned how to connect with people in different levels. I learned how to use my skills. But at the whole time I'm there, I'm thinking, I am growing this empire for somebody else.
there it is.
Yeah,
So it sounds like after the acquisition, you probably stayed on for a while with the firm.
correct. I stayed on for, I think it was 2 years with the firm, somewhere around there. Um, when I stayed on for 2 years, things were changing. They brought in a big equity firm. They really didn't know the industry of staffing. They were very good um, college graduates, I should say, from high-end universities. But at the end of the day, they had the education, but they didn't have the intelligence, I per se, I say about the business itself and how it ran.
Huh.
So, long story short, it started going downward. I took my equity and decided to say, hey, you know what? My brother jumped 6 months before me, and I said, let's do this. So, we jumped into real estate full time.
So there's quite a jump from the staffing to real estate. I mean, that's like a totally different industry. So
Yeah.
as you were growing up, or what influences did you have that made you think real estate could be something that you could invest in?
Um, when I was working at the company, I always was interested in real estate. I surrounded myself at the beginning in my early 20s with a lot of naysayers that would guide me against buying real estate. When I bought my first house in 2014, I was think about 25 years old. Um, and then I ended up moving to another house after that house. I got married, moved to another house about 3 years later. Everybody was telling me to sell the house. It's not going to make any money. Sell the house. I wanted to keep that house, which I did. I kept that house. And long story short, that house is probably one of my best assets right now. And the rent roll covers it times 100.
Oh my God.
Um, so that's where I kind of stepped into the real estate a little bit more in 2014. Just if that was the question, kind of part time, Brian, is that what you were saying?
So that I get it because real estate always appealed to me. My dad was a builder, so I was
Yeah.
kind of brought up that way. Now, you mentioned as you were working the W-2 job, you'd always been interested in real estate. So, what kind
Yeah.
of influences were there? Was it family? Was it media? Was it books? What was
I
it?
was always interested in it. I really love to listen to Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone. I read his book, Be Obsessed or Be Average, and I listened to a lot of his podcasts, and he talked about real estate a lot, Brian. The other thing is one day I was at my desk and the company wasn't doing too good, and my brother came up to me and said, "Hey," he was a big he was a big reader. He read a lot of different real estate books. He said, "Let's just do this." So he came up to me and said, "Hey, I have this 13 unit. It looks like we can get it off market. The numbers work." He says, "Do you have a couple $100,000 to put into it?" And I said, "Yes, let's do it." So simple as that. That's really how it started quick. and I, ended up bringing some money to the table for a deal. We became 50% partners on a 13 unit in the good old city of Manchester, New Hampshire. And then we said, wow, this is pretty good. It's actually cash flowing. It's making money. We can increase rents. Now, all of a sudden, 3 years later, that property now we just got equity out of it. We pulled out $800,000 in 3 years of that property.
So you've owned it for 3 years.
Yep.
Okay. This sounds like it might be the deal deep dive later in the show, so I'm not gonna
Yeah,
follow that rabbit just yet.
absolutely.
Put a star on my notes here. So your brother actually led you into your first major commercial purchase.
My first major commercial purchase, absolutely. My brother Bill led me into that. Correct.
Okay, so how many years? You said 25 years old, you purchased your first. That was a single family house?
That was just a single family house that I ended up, Brian, what that was my primary residence. When I went to go buy another house, everybody was telling me to sell that house, sell that house. And I said, no, I want to keep it and rent it. I ended up renting it, and then I was always making cash flow. So I was always interested in that. I just never took it to the next level. Where my brother came to my desk one day and kind of said, let's just do it. Let's just buy this 13 unit, run in this commercial game and see how it goes.
So
So
what year did you purchase the single family house?
single family house I purchased in 2014.
So you've been an investor 10 years.
Yeah, I would say not truly an investor because it was a primary residence, Brian. So I ended up leaving that in 2017.
So 7 years?
Yep, 7 years. Correct.
7 years later, you're taking out 800K in equity, which for our viewers, just if you don't know this, when you do a refinance, that's not taxed as income. That's a gain, so there's no
Yeah.
tax, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So,
And the commercial property, Brian, that I took out the $800,000 in equity, we bought that in 2020. That we bought that building. That was one in Manchester. That was 2021, Brian. 2021.
oh my God. Yeah, we're going to tag that one for your deep dive, unless you have another story you want to do. I'm fine with that as well.
No, that was 2021. We bought that building. And then in 2024, last month, we just got $800,000 of equity.
So you split that 50-50 with your brother. I think you're okay.
Correct. Like we're going to use that, but what I want to try to say is, Brian, we're going to try to use that to kind of buy something else. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, all day long. Very smart.
Yep. And we're still cash flowing on that property while taking out that equity.
Of course you are. It's real estate.
Yeah, learning. That's a big light bulb in my head too. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I see the lion on the wall behind you. That's pretty cool. If I had to pick my animal, it'd be tiger, but
There we go.
that's another discussion for another
Yeah.
time. So here we are. You're 7 years into the game. And this question has two parts to it. I love asking this one because I always get a different answer. If you could go back to Bob 7 years ago, what piece of advice would you have given yourself for real estate? And then fast forward to today, 2024, with your years of experience, what advice would you give to a newbie starting out today? So we'll start with you. If you could go back and visit yourself 7 years ago, what piece of advice would you be giving yourself?
I'd be using my W-2 employment money that I was making at that time, and I'd be using it all towards real estate. I would not just be saving it, hoarding it away. I was always a saver. I grew up with putting the money under your pillow per se, you know. I would have been using that money to buying different investments. I would have bought my first house other than being a single family home. I would have bought a 3 or 10 unit home and lived in one of those apartments myself. That's what I would have done.
Okay, so going back 7 years, you probably didn't see the benefit of the commercial real estate multifamilies at that time.
Did not.
So you did what most people do when they start in real estate. They'll think single family home because that's kind of what we grow up in. It's what we're familiar with, living,
Yep.
buying a multifamily. especially anything that requires a commercial loan, is like, there's a fear level of like, oh no, that's not for me, that's for bigger people. But those people put on their pants just like you do.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned all of your W-2 earnings would go into real estate. There's another bonus there, anyone who's watching this, that your W-2 earner has. You're lendable. Because you have that job, because you have that paycheck steady income, you can walk into a bank and qualify for that loan based on your income, or at least help you qualify for that. If you're doing the larger commercial deal, it's little known that the underwriters actually look at the income from the deal, from the property, as part of the income that would be paying the mortgage. I think when I was doing this, they would look at 70 to 80% of
Yep.
rental and apply that towards the income. So hypothetically, if you bought a large enough property that could cover the debt service and everything else, you wouldn't need a W-2. But as you're starting out, if you're doing the single family home, the smaller rental properties, 3s, 4s, it makes sense to keep your W-2 job as long as possible so you can qualify for those loans and ramp up and build your portfolio. And then you catch fire and there's no turning back. So really, really good. Going back to yourself, the W-2s and buying larger, quicker. Any other advice you'd have given yourself back then?
I would have just, honestly, I would have read more books about real estate and not just running a team. I know running a team is very important in the industry I was in, but I would have read more books about real estate and listened to more podcasts. Listen to people like yourself, Brian. Listen to Grant Cardone in more detail. Listen to Jake and Gino back home. These podcasts really would would have propelled me forward faster. I'm listening to at least an hour a day every single day now. I really would have taken more chances with the money I had and learned how to leverage my different properties to buy more. That's what I would have done differently.
Absolutely. Amen. All day long.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't know much of my story, but that was similar to what we did. We put in 40K on our first 3-unit. It was in the first market cycle 20 years ago where things were going up. Refinanced it twice. Each time bought another one using that as the down payment. Market was still going up, so we refinanced those other two, and that 40,000 leveraged into 5 properties, 1.2, $1.3 million off of 40K.
Exactly.
And then we caught fire and never looked back.
That's the stage that we're in right now, that we're trying to learn that equity, or not learn it, we're using it, I should say. We are in the equity stage, so now we have 800 plus our investors' money to keep on going now.
Well, I'd love to jump on that train with you, and we can talk about that off camera.
Yeah, of course.
I have a few skills I could bring to the table, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and I need those skills.
Well, here I am. You found me.
Yep, absolutely.
So now let's switch forward to 2024. The newbies who are watching this today, kind of on the fence, trying to figure out, well, which foot do I put forward? What advice would you give for a newbie starting out today?
Get in the game. That's what I get. That's the advice I have for you. Get in the game. Don't sit on the sidelines. Don't wait for rates to drop. Don't wait for this, wait for that. There are 100 excuses with one resolution. Just get in the game. That's all I'm saying. Don't bet, good coach back this way, Mike Ketchen says, bet on yourself. It's true. You know yourself, bet on yourself, and get in the game. That's the advice I have for you.
Really, really good stuff. So betting on yourself, like I'm a newbie, I hear that. And okay, bet on myself, get in the game. But where do I go? Am I on the sideline? Am I getting onto the field? Am I offensive?
Yeah.
So what would be the next layer on that? Get into the
I would say get in your community, so start picking up a book, start listening to different podcasts, Jake and Gino, Grant Cardone. Go even on Google and look at the best real estate books to start investing. Start there, start somewhere, just take action. Just take action is what it really requires. The book that I read recently, 5 moves, the next 5 moves, your next 5 moves that you gave me, Brian, it's all about taking action. It is true. That's something that you have to kind of put on the layer of get in the game. All right. The other thing I would say is respectfully is start going to different community meetups, such as your local real estate meetups. Find out, connect with people, talk to people at the gym, just meet different people. Everybody brings something different to the table, and you can give something back to them as well.
Absolutely wonderful and so true because I've heard it said so many times your network is your net worth.
Yup.
That's not just financial, that's um, resources. You know, who do you know that can get you to where you need to be, the different things you need to do. And the book that we keep talking about here was by Patrick Bet David. And here's the book.
Yes,
In
there it is.
my copy, you can kind of see the way I do things here. I put
Yep,
in these tabs color coded for the different sections because
it's excellent.
years ago I would highlight the books and say, "Oh, great, it's all highlighted," and then never be able to find what I highlighted.
Yep. I
So,
have it in a I what I do is I listen to books and then I talk on my notepad here on my phone. So I list the chapter with my quick rollback notes. That's kind of how I do it.
you know, I've heard that before. I really got to get doing that because you know I'm old school with the post-its and the not the Sharpie, the highlighter there. So yeah, and again, you're bringing it. Get into your community, find your meetups, find those other people. If you like wholesaling, talk to wholesalers,
Absolutely.
the best wholesalers. If you like multifamily, find landlords and talk to them. I mean, I hear it all the time. Take people out to lunch, but find a good mentor. Find a coach, like you said. A good coach will tell you to bet on yourself and your mantra. Take action. That's all gold. If anyone's hearing this for the first time, you know, hit pause, rewind, and listen to what Bob just said to answer that question, because it's a path to get going. He's giving you the keys to put it into that engine and start it up and throw it into drive and start moving forward. But you got to move forward. I mean, it does you no good to have a Lamborghini in the garage and never drive it. So if
Yeah.
you educate yourself, you get all this information, you build this engine. That's how I think of business, as an engine. And you rev that thing up, take it out for a spin, and let that thing fly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like three years ago, Brian, when I started going to the meetups and I was at my last company before I took the jump, is I was going to the room like a deer in headlights, not knowing what they were talking about. They were talking about cap rates. They were talking about ARV. They were talking about even interest rates and how to divide your net operating income. I was scared going to those. But now, fast forward 3 years or even the last year, I am learning things every single day from surrounding myself with the right people in these meetups and asking the questions. I have to ask the questions out there. And
So
that's really what's helped me.
you just said more gold here, and I want to put a spotlight on it. You know, in 1 year you've picked up so much. In the last 3 years you've picked up so much. I mean, this terminology and the college level math. I mean, this isn't trigonometry. It's, you know, multiplication and division. It's not brain science, but it's putting the numbers into play with the concept. It's a property. And if we do this, then the rest of the numbers shift. And once you understand that, it's, you know, really simple math at that point. That's that's really valuable. But what's even more valuable, because you're building these networks, because you're talking to these people, you're getting this education, this financial understanding without having to lay down $100,000 on a college loan.
Yep.
I mean, my heart goes out for students, college students these days who, I mean, when I went to school, my total nut was maybe 50, 60 grand. I'd be shocked if you can do a year for 50 or 60 grand today.
No.
How do you, I mean, how do you make that work? I mean, it's just so difficult. So alternatively, because you bet on yourself, because you take action, because you get out there and you ask questions,
Absolutely.
You're getting the information you need for financial intelligence to make better decisions so you can take care of yourself and your family and anybody else you want to take care of. And, not to knock a college, but a lot of these lectures, they'll stand up there and tell you this, tell you this, tell you this, and your brain is supposed to be a sponge and absorb it. That's not the best way to learn. If you ask questions and then have to process and figure out the answers, that's a much stronger way to grasp a concept. And just keep doing that. I mean, that works, so keep doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're going to jump into the deal deep dive, and if you want to use that 13 unit, that's fine with me. If you have another deal in mind, I'm fine with that as well. It's your show, it's your story. So the question is, what's the best property deal you've ever done? What type of property was it? How did you find it? How did you finance it?
Okay, very good. So the best property deal right now to date that I've done is I purchased a 13 unit in New Hampshire. I found it off market. Simple as this, I was working my W-2 job. My brother came over to me and said, hey, I found this deal with one of these brokers that he's dealing with. And he said, do you have money to put down on it? And I said, yes. So we actually did traditional financing with this. This was our first one. We went to banks and we shopped around. We didn't know really, we didn't know we could get 30-year amortizations. We didn't know we could get 40-year amortizations. We got a 25 and thought that was a big win, and a 22.5% down, yeah. So, yeah. 22.5% down. So we went with it. And long story short is we got the 13 units. We got in there. We renovated it with no construction budget, used our own money. Okay. This is not the right way to play. I just want to make sure everybody's listening to this. I've learned a lot from this. Okay. I've learned a lot from my first deal. And my first deal has made me great deals on the next ones. I want to make that clear. But what we did there is we renovated the units. We increased the rent that was already available to increase. Okay. Rents were low, very low. We increased them right away. We did eviction for renovations. Okay. Non-renewal of lease for renovations. We've learned the guidelines and walked through that. So we did all that. Fast forward now, after we've done some rehab, and we're talking just paint, floors, nothing construction wise. Okay. Just paint, floors, maybe out of 13 units, 3 of them had new cabinets. And fast forward 3 years later to 2024, we just pulled out around $800,000 of equity 3 years later.
Fantastic. I'm going to start drilling into some of the numbers here because I want to fill in the blanks. So 22.5% down. Do you know what your interest rate was on that?
Yeah, it was actually locked in at a 10-year actually at a 4.5%.
And then it was an ARM that adjusted for the rest of the term?
Yeah, so let me think. So no, yeah, I don't exactly know how to answer that. My brother does run the numbers a little bit more on that, Brian.
That's okay.
So, but I mean, we had a 25-year amortization. Is that right? Am I looking at a 5-year? So the rate was fixed for the rate's good for 10 years at 4.5%.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yeah, and even after 15 years, you're already cash flowing. So a little blip on the interest is not, it's a blip.
Yeah.
It's not even a speed bump.
Absolutely.
So 22.5% down, really good rate there. I mean, in Massachusetts, when we switched over to commercial, we were looking at 6% for everything. So kudos to you. Now, the construction for the fluff and the buff, the lipstick, the 3 rehabs with cabinets, floors, painting, all the stuff you did, what would you say your total nut on the construction was?
So I paid for my own money on that, but our total thing was about $100,000.
100K.
Yep.
Okay, and your purchase price?
My purchase price was 1.4, a little bit over $1.4 million.
We'll go with 1.4 for easy math.
Yep.
So we got an all in at 1.5.
Yep.
And let me figure out your down payment here, unless you know it off the top of your head.
Yeah.
It's okay, I'm almost there. 315.
Yep. It's before closing costs, right? Yeah.
Yep. And what, like another 20 for?
Yeah, another 30,000 was closing costs. I remember that. Because I remember we each had to bring around 170, we had to bring around 100, if this sounds about right, $176,000 to the table.
Okay. So you're in for the purchase 345K.
Yep, that's correct.
You're 100K in, 1.5. Okay, here's the fun part.
Yep.
Okay, so without knowing the value of it today, there's 700K left on the original mortgage. But I'm sure when you refied, the value went up, your loan shifted, all of that.
Yeah, because what we did, if this is, I want to say this right, and obviously we're going to cut this podcast here and there, but we took out 800,000 of a, we did like a second mortgage of equity. That makes sense?
So far, so good.
Yeah. So that's what we did. Yeah, we took out 800,000. So now we're using that to other properties, and it's a second, and it's kind of like that 800,000 is now we're using that as like a second mortgage as needed.
Perfect, perfect.
Yep.
I mean, so smart to split it up like that. So
Yep.
did you keep your original loan on it and add a?
Correct, because we wanted to keep the 4.5%. Yeah.
So smart. So
Yeah, we
smart.
tried. I mean, we learned, learn from the other ones.
Now, was this through the same bank holding the first note?
Yes, it was. This was from the first bank. Yep.
They loved you.
Yeah.
They loved you. I mean, you walk in with a deal like this, and then you create a loan out of thin air for them. Yeah, why would they not work with you? So,
Yep.
just for the kids back home, you're all in on this deal for 445. That's your rehab cost plus your down payment.
Yep.
You are at 1.5 all in. You get the second position on it, gives you 800K out. This is a 3-year 800K, gives you and your brother just north of $250,000 a year. It's actually 266, 6 to infinity. So this gives you and your brother $140,000 a year just on the second.
Yep. Correct.
That's not counting depreciation. That's not counting the cash flow. And what's the property valued at today?
We just valued at, we got it, because at the reappraise around $2.4 million.
You bought it at 1.1. It's a 2.4.
But we bought it at 1.4. We bought at 1.4. It's 2.4 now.
1.4. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we bought at 1.4 after our loan payment was less than 1.
What a wonderful deal.
Yeah, that was a good deal. That was a good deal. I think there's like we're trying to find deals like that now, but in another 3 years, our goal is that hopefully they are, appreciate like this as well.
Wow. So I'm gonna drill back to the beginning here. Off market with a broker. So your brother had a relationship with a broker. Was this a pocket listing with the broker that he offered to your brother?
Yeah, this was a pocket listing. Yeah.
Perfect. So how did your brother do that? He built a relationship.
Built a relationship with them. Absolutely. Now I'm building the relationships because we're trying to grow this as a business now. So Bill still has relationships, of course, but now I'm dealing with kind of wholesaler lists, and I'm making calls. We're sending out postcards now. We're really trying to get our name out there as KB4 so people know who we are and what we're trying to establish here.
So a deal comes across your table. This is off script here. Uh, how are you underwriting it? Did you come across a template or?
Yeah, right now, my brother underwrites a lot of the deals as well. At this time, I'm starting to use actually a deal analyzer calculator that I got online, Brian.
Yep.
I'd love to take a look at some more deal analyzers. Actually, if you know Jake and Gino podcast, they gave a deal analyzer, so I use that. I make sure that I'm at least getting a 1.5 DSCR, and I want to cash flow. My goal is to cash flow when I first start buying these buildings. It may not be a lot the first year. I understand that, but my goal is to cash flow and then make sure that if I put $100,000 into, in another year I can get 200,000 out, if not more.
Force the,
That's my goal.
yeah, absolutely. Forcing the appreciation. And
Yep.
one of the reasons I just love, love, love multifamily as an asset, because you can do that. I mean, you can't do that with a stock or a bond or anything else. You have no control over it.
Mhm.
Just watch and pray that it doesn't go down. But here, you can drive by and say, okay, well, those shrubs, if we got rid of those and put in something fresh and new, it might cost us a couple $1,000s, but then all the tenants are happy. We can bump it up and pay for that in 3 to 6 months. And then everything after that 3 to 6 months is just golden.
Absolutely. And that's how we're looking at it. As long as we can cash flow a little bit the first year, but we're more about the ARV. We want to pull our money out and we want to pull our money out. We have no money into the deal and it's just consistently paying us with all our money back in return already.
One
That's
last,
what we're doing. That's what we're trying to master now. We are starting to really master that now, taking our money out, exactly like we just talked about that 13 unit that I pulled out 800,000 in 3 years. We are covering it with our cash flow, and now we have some money to play with to our next deals.
so when you were talking about the construction for the 13 unit, you alluded to the fact that you had learned a lot from not doing that. And you said, don't do it that way. It's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
I know there's an answer to that. Would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. When we first bought the building, we didn't take out a construction budget. Or we didn't take, yes, we didn't take out a construction budget. We used about $100,000 again after putting around $176,000 a piece into it. We put $100,000 into it in our own money, which was difficult, of course. Just stunk paying with our own money. But next time around, the next project that we did on another unit, we did a construction budget, and then we were able to keep our money and then use that money from the bank. I want to use other people's money more than my own, cleaning the bank's money. So that is definitely something to do, and what I've learned hard on that.
So anyone who's hearing this concept for the first time, if Bob would have like said, okay, my budget's going to be 100,000, banks will allow you to put a percentage of that construction budget into the mortgage.
Yep.
So instead of having to come up with 100,000, maybe you only had to come up with 23,000 to cover the other 76 or whatever it was.
Exactly.
The bank would wrap into the mortgage. So instead of you having to come out of pocket, you've already run your numbers. You know you're going to raise your rents. It's as long as you're cash flowing and it hits your rents, your residents, who you're going to care and take care of and give them a decent home, are actually going to pay for that construction budget as part of the rent to be paid into the mortgage. That itself alone, you could spread yourself out over 5 properties, that $100,000 easily, and just do construction loans on 5 more deals instead of, I don't want to say blowing the cash, but putting all the cash on one boardwalk space instead of spreading it out over 5. Construction.
Exactly. And I agree with that, because the construction loan, because you got to think about it. When I left my W-2 employment, which was the best thing I've done, but I also haven't collected a check. So not using my own money and using the bank's money to make sure that I can spread out and increase these values right away with the bank's money makes it a lot easier for me to get home and use my money how I want to, and not put $100,000 into a property. And learning that from my first deal, now I can tell you right now that I'll never buy a deal without using construction loan and working that.
Absolutely.
That's the way that I'm scaling and growing now.
So Who creates the budget, Bob?
Who creates the budget? Well, we create the budget, you know. So if it's a
Okay.
100,000 in rehab, I tell the bank it's 180,000 in rehab.
You already are ahead of me on where I'm going with this. So who's the actual GC, Bob?
Bob's company now. We just started Growing Tree Property Management Company. That's now our GC company that
Yeah.
will give us the budget that we can pay ourselves back at, you know. So I've learned that. I actually took that from you sitting with you a month ago. So that was huge. But now we have that in play for one of our next renovations we're doing now.
1000% spot on because
Yep.
in my own, I went out and got my CSL in Massachusetts, not in New Hampshire. But yeah, if I have to write this all up, I'm saying, okay, so here's my whole budget. And as a GC, I want 20% of that. I bake it into it. So that 22.5% that I'd have to put in is I'm going to get that back paying myself as the GC.
Yeah, yeah, I got a lot. I would love to pick your brain on that, of course, in detail too. But I'm in the same page. That's what we're doing now. We're starting to do that now. We started we just got a company, Growing Tree Property Management Company, just trying to, you know, learn how to the tax benefits of real estate. Truly, that's what we're learning. We're in the next stage now. You know?
You're preaching to the choir here because you know when I do these deep deals, I'm always talking about okay, so this was nice, this was the cash flow you got off the deal. You cleared 166,000 six to infinity. I mean 133 to infinity per year, probably having other people do all the rehab. That's
Mhm.
pretty nice to be the manager putting 10K in your pocket, over 10K in your pocket, you and your brother both doing that. And we're just talking about the cash flow. And now you're talking about the tax benefits. A larger property, you could do cost segregation and get that back
Yeah,
sooner. There's just so many like jimmies and sprinkles and walnuts you can put on top of this.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You're buying.
We have done a cost segregation. We had a tax accountant that was not a real estate tax accountant. I tell anybody out there, make sure the most important thing, and I can truly mean this, is get a real estate tax account. Make sure a CPA, make sure you have a good CPA, and they have to be focused on real estate because my CPA has been able to get me cost segregations on two properties that paid me hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end
Yes, paid you and saved you.
and saved me. I should say saved me and paid me. Yes.
Yes. But you
Yep.
get both sides of that coin on cost segregation.
Yep.
And for anybody who's listening to this and say, well, gee, how do I find one of those? Go right back to your network. Find
Yep.
a real estate investor who's been doing this a while, who's done what Bob's done. I mean, you could probably look up Bob at the end of this
Yeah.
show. And if you're in New Hampshire, ask him, you know, who do you recommend for this? Who do you recommend?
Absolutely.
And here's a little golden nugget that I'll share. If you're looking for property manager or realtor or broker, right? So you go to the broker and you ask him for a property manager or a banker. And then you go to the property manager and you ask him for referrals for two other things. And for each person that you get referred to, you ask him for two or three other referrals, and you're going to start hearing those same names coming up. And you're going to filter down to really get to the key professionals who you would want on your team, those Tom Brady's or Peyton Manning's that you want. So yeah,
Yep.
and that's going right back to your network because I can't say it enough. Your network is your gold mine resource, your treasure chest of just
Yeah.
finding the other mentors and coaches and team members that you need.
Absolutely. Network, net worth.
Yeah, there it is. There
Yep.
it is.
Network.
Yeah, you've given me so many fortune cookies so far on this, or you know, little tidbits. So that's great. So I'm going to jump into the next question here. So, as a real estate investor, what's the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome, and how did you solve it?
How did I solve it? Okay. Well, the biggest hurdle I had to overcome and how did I solve it is delegating to elevate. That is a hurdle that I challenge myself with every day. I like to take on all the work, whether it be going to a property, making sure it's done right, whether it be going to the banks, Now I still go to the banks, but I'm trying to branch. I'm not trying to work in the business. I'm trying to work on the business. And I'm really trying to delegate that more. We've hired a few people, such as an accounts receivable person, a property manager. So we weren't dealing with the little tasks. That's how I kind of solved a lot of my issues, because you mentioned in the RIA meeting, Brian, that people should be focusing on their strength. Okay, my strength is being on the phone. My strength is talking to banks. My strength is acquisition and execution. But if I'm out there on the field all day long, dealing with this property, turning this apartment over, dealing with the eviction process, I am not using my strength to grow this business. So delegate to elevate is something that I've really been working on, and something that has helped me get back on the phone. I should be making more calls, but I'm starting to make calls and really drum up a lot more leads for these off-market deals.
Absolutely. And, thank you for the props. I mean, I'm just telling it like it is. I don't,
Yeah.
I put on my pants like everybody else. And these are things that I've learned. And these were hard lessons for me to learn. I think it was 15 years before I hired my first employee. And, I'm going through knee pads like they were potato chips, but I don't
Yep.
do that anymore. Now I manage my teams. And the best thing I do is I ask my teams, what do they think? Because now they see what I don't see every day. And I don't want it to just be, well, this is the way I used to do it, so that's how we'll do it. I gotta stay ahead of that curve, ahead of that edge, what my
Yep.
competitors are doing, and just be smart enough to listen to the people who are smarter than I am.
Yeah.
So solving it was
Solving it was making some hires like a property manager so they can get out there and work on my property, so I'm not running back and forth to get materials. Because remember, we just started, just my brother and I, you know. So when we just started this, it's just my brother and I. Now we are at a growth stage where this has become a full-time investment job to us. So I can't be going to run out and get material, and Bill can't be going to serve the evictions and deal with the evictions in court. We need someone else to handle that for us, so we can actually get on the phone of what we do best and network and find deals and deal with banks and build relationships, because that's where we're strong, you know? So that's what we did. We started making little hires, someone dealing with the receipts and the bookkeeping, somebody dealing with property management. So we're really trying to grow like that. And that's what's really helped us, get back on.
5 moves ahead.
Five moves ahead, Brian. Like, this is my first podcast. I'm always nervous, but I'm nervous today.
Look, I mean, we're just having a good time. We're just two real estate guys here talking about deals and, you
Yeah.
know, learn and sharing stories. I love this. I mean,
Yeah.
getting to talk to someone and find out how you got to where you got. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And one thing in real estate that I've learned in this industry is that everybody who wants to succeed but this specifically, they're always learning. Whether you have 30 years experience, 4 years experience, you're always learning. Like, the things I've learned in the last 3 years from my first year have just catastrophic compared to what I've learned in other industries.
yeah. And
This is just has so many different avenues, whether you're doing a flip, whether you're doing a home sale, whether you're doing uh a buy and hold. Everything has its own.
yeah. And if you can take those nuggets of value out of each step of that process and it just melts together into this, like, it's not 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. It's like squaring it, it's like
Yeah.
2 × 2 × 2. It,
Yeah.
I get excited. I get excited about this. My own routine is I have to block out time, 30 minutes of reading every day. And I do that. I've got my VAs who come in here. It's like, okay, I'll be outside reading. If you need me, just knock on the glass. I'll come in. But I got to feed myself before I have enough energy to feed the rest of my team. And then what I'm
Yeah.
learning and what I'm taking in and what I'm growing, I can take that and spread it across my whole team and we all rise up together. I love that part of it, which is a great segue to our next section. So we've already mentioned your next 5 moves. Master the Art of Business Strategy. And
Yep, I got it on my phone. Yep.
this is the book I always tell people never to tell your competition about. So I'll put that one back away. Yeah, that's just such an awesome book. I
Yep. That's an awesome book. It talks about like master knowing yourself. Like I wrote down some notes here, like number one, master knowing yourself, master the ability to reason, master building the right team, master strategy to scale, and master the power. I mean, master power plays, whatever. But
yeah.
something I took from
Yeah, this book actually led me to read The Five Love Languages because
it. Oh,
sure, it can help you enhance your relationship with your wife or your spouse, but understanding your team, like your property manager has a love language that he wants to communicate with. It might be for him telling him, hey, you did a good job on that rehab, you saved money here, right? That might be his love language. Or it might be a gift. Hey, you did a great job on that. Have $100 gift certificate to take your wife out to dinner.
yeah.
Understanding at that level who your team is and what their language is. I mean, I give it all back to Patrick Bet-David on that one. So I'm going to assume that the first book you would have recommended would have been Your Next Five Moves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question would have been, what book in your investing career had a biggest impact on you? We'll put that one back on the shelf. So was there a second book or audio?
Yeah. I forget the author, but this was an excellent book. It was The ABCs of Real Estate.
Ken McElroy.
That's it. Ken, that I knew it was Ken. I didn't know how to say his last name. Yes, excellent book. Um, excellent book. Simple as that. It has everything from there to even, what creative financing is, or how to leverage your properties. It's the ABCs. It's the ABCs
Yeah.
of real estate. It's excellent.
Yeah, he walks through that Seattle deal, like he does all the research,
Yes.
everything from Arizona. And I remember one quote in that book. He says, not only did we come back and learn a lot about the city and our guesses were close, some were on, some were off, but we also got to see what green trees look like.
He talked about like three things too. You have your actual income, your actual potential income, and then your future potential income and how to run deals. And I remember that hitting me because some of these, not all of them, some agents will sell you what the property could be and try to give it that value.
Yeah.
You've got to know what you're looking at when you're into there. And that ABCs of real estate helped me out because some deals didn't make sense. I kept on drawing it up a different way, underwriting it, looking at it this way, looking at it that way, until I got more knowledgeable from listening to podcasts, reading the books. Now all of a sudden I'm looking at deals the correct way.
Yeah,
So that was something I took. It was his three steps there, the actual.
Yeah, he calls, I think pro forma is pretend, because that,
Yeah, exactly.
like, if it was
Yeah.
worth that, then the owner would have had to do all that work first to give it that value. But no, he's saying, well, if you paint the car and put on chrome wheels and retune the engine and do all this, then it will be worth that, and that's what I'll sell it to you for.
Exactly.
Yeah,
If you went to the gym every day at 4 a.m., you would be this weight, but now you're not. Yeah.
well, when we met each other, the guys can't tell, but you're pretty pumped underneath from the neck down, and you're in really good shape. So kudos on that. And
Thanks.
I'm not there at 4, but Grandpa at 61 here. I got an 8-pack, and I worked for
That's
it.
good. That's good. That's all right. That's all that matters. As long as I think going to the gym is one of the most important things, especially when you're getting in this game, because to keep that mind sharp, you got to keep your body sharp. I truly feel that deep down. Every day at 4 a.m., that's where I'm at.
I got a good friend, Rick, down there, Dutch guy, and his legs are not as big as my legs, but I see him lifting an extreme amount of weight, and it's like, I know I can't do that. And I asked him, he says, well, why do you know that you can't do that? Have you tried? Well, no, I haven't. I just had this, I had my own mind limitation that, oh no, that's my boundary, that's my barrier.
Yeah.
And then after seeing him, okay, well, let's go up 15. Let's go up 15. Let's go up
Yeah.
15. That one day I upped 30, 45 pounds. It's like, okay, now I've reset my mindset to what is a possibility.
Hmm.
And same thing with real estate. Okay, I buy a single family house. That's my mindset. I come out
Yes.
of the gate 3 years later. I buy a 13 unit with my brother, make
Yep.
133,000 a year. That's my mindset. Okay, so what's my mindset tomorrow? I don't know.
Exactly.
How far
Exactly.
am I going to push this? Where's my comfort? And then, okay, what is 3 steps beyond my comfort or 5 steps beyond my comfort? So we got Patrick Bet-David, we got Ken McElroy. I'm going to push it here. Do you have a third book that has left an impression on you as a real estate investor?
You know what? I tell you what, I know it's not probably too much real estate, but Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone, one of my favorite books. I mean, I know it's not real estate per se. There's some great real estate books out there. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but that one book that always stuck with me is um is Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. It's truly, if you want to succeed, you have to be obsessed with the path that you take. You know, you have to be obsessed with it.
I love that. Well, I see we're almost at the 2:30 mark, so I want to start speeding it up a
Yep.
little bit. I want to respect your time here.
Okay.
This I'm having a blast. Thank you. This is
No,
fun.
of course.
So we know that you are delegating. You've got your property manager, account receivable. You're starting to fill in the blanks in your business. What's next at your company, and why not get started today?
Next at my company is trying to buy bigger commercial buildings now. Okay. We are going to learn, all right, which we're going to be learning like syndication. Okay. We know what we're doing and how to do it now. We're trying to look at anywhere from 30 to 40 unit buildings now, whether it be staying in New England, which is a little pricey in New England, but really branching out of state to North Carolina and South Carolina. That's where we're going next. We're going to push our boundaries a little bit.
Nice.
We're going to push out of our comfort zone. Um, that's what we're going to do. That's what's next. Out next is we're going to be going to different states. So
That's a nice middle ground. I think I could meet you halfway there.
yeah, exactly. I'll be in Aruba, so that's a tax write off. I'll be seeing you in Aruba in February.
Spot on.
Yeah,
Absolutely spot on. And
yeah,
I want to add to that as well. Anywhere you go, you're in real estate, and there's real estate everywhere. So as
absolutely.
long as your intention, hey, I'm going to France, and while I'm there, I'm going to look at rental property. Merci beaucoup. It did not work out, but
It did not work.
still, it didn't work. I didn't see anything that met my criteria, but I went, I looked, I saw the property. There's my deduction. I come back. You like Maui? Hey, it was too expensive for me to make a cash flow.
Yeah,
You get where I'm going with that.
absolutely, absolutely. Those are good points. Those are very good points. And a good CPA will make that happen too.
Well, it's your intention
Yeah.
because the CPA will do his job as a CPA, but it's your intention. If you say this trip was X for my business, that's your intention. Instead
Okay.
of walking into the CPA and say, hey, we went to Hawaii. Can I deduct that? And the
Yeah.
CPA is going to say no.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's protecting you. That's his job.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
this is the curveball question that was not on the script. I always love asking this one.
Okay.
What question should I have asked you, Bob, that I didn't ask you today?
I think you asked great questions, Brian. Maybe I don't know a little bit about. I mean, you've asked all the questions, Brian. I was nervous today, so I was nervous. So I was tripping on my words a lot. So we'll cut this and edit this, hopefully. Yeah, but other than that, no. I mean, you asked me all the questions that really I don't know what else you could have asked. You asked about books. You asked maybe a podcast. What podcast do you listen to? You know, podcasts are very important, especially with the. I mean, a lot of people in their truck all day long. When I'm going to see properties, I'm listening to podcasts more than reading books. You know, that's what I'm listening to. Jake and Gino. I'm listening to, Money Pockets. I'm listening to Axel. Axel is a guy from New Hampshire that just started a podcast.
Uh,
He's
Rogerson? Rogerson?
yes, I don't know how to say his last name, but yes,
Good looking
He,
guy with a beard.
yeah, correct.
Oh, no, wait.
He's a younger guy.
That's
He's a
me.
younger guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's in the feed there. So he had Jake and Gino, Axel. What was the money one?
Money Pockets. I think
Money.
it's called Money Pocket. Is it? Yeah, it's the big one that everybody listens to.
Oh, Bigger Pockets?
Bigger Pockets. I'm sorry. Yeah, Bigger Pockets. Yeah.
Yep. No apologies here. That's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah,
Yeah. Axel's is called the Multifamily Wealth Podcast.
perfect.
Yep. Multifamily Wealth. That's a good podcast. That's a good one.
Yeah, I get his IG feeds, and every now and then he has a nice little nugget out there. Really good stuff.
Yeah, he does.
So there we are. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and you didn't look nervous to me. You looked like you were having a great time. So
I did. I had a great time. I like learning, Brian. I like getting myself out there. I like being uncomfortable. So that's is what I like to do. You know, I want to continue this conversation more, Brian, with you on one of your meetups or inner circles, wherever you.
absolutely, absolutely. And all this video, all this feed, you're gonna get. I'll have it all put. You're gonna
Yeah.
get the footage, and then when it's all done, you'll get the final footage. So if you want to find a virtual assistant or something, start clipping it up and make your own clips to promote.
Whatever. Yep. I can do that.
That's
Brian, what could I improve on for my next podcast? Knowing should I learn something different? What should I do here? I like feedback.
I would watch other podcasts and observe what did I like about this and what did I not like about this. When I was in the marketing and advertising field, we would do what we call competitive and comparative audits when we would design a website. So first, competitive, right? Within my silo of real estate or dog food or whatever it is, I'm going to look at my competitors and see what they're doing and note of the ones that are doing a really good job and what I liked. Then when I do a comparative audit, I'm just going for like the top websites or the top podcasts. Doesn't even have to be my industry. What are they doing in their format that I really like? And what are they doing that I just don't think this works and we shouldn't be doing that? So then you can assume that persona, you know, and you can take the best of the best and put it into your own flavor or persona when you go on as a guest or if you're going to start your own show or whatever, and just have fun with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, cool.
All right. So here we are. We're at the end of our time. Should our guests or other investors or anybody else want to reach out to you and get in touch with you, how should our listeners get in touch with you for more information?
Absolutely. You can email me. My email is bob@kb4propertygroup.com. That's bob@kb4propertygroup.com. That's number 4. And text me, call me anytime. I'm always willing to talk to you. 603-818-1793. That's good old New Hampshire. 603-818-1793.
Perfect.
Also, give us a follow on Instagram, please. We're trying to increase our Instagram. Give us a follow on Instagram, KB4 Property Group. That's KB number 4 Property Group.
On Instagram. You got
Yep.
it. All right, young man. This has been a blast. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure again to have on the show Mr. Bob Murray from KB Property Group LLC. Bob, again, any last words for our show?
No, thank you very much for having me. And hopefully in another year, I have 200 more units to keep on going. So I'll see you guys around. Keep on hustling.
Excellent, excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of my real estate peeps, this is Brian Lucier from the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.